Welcome back to the Stoic Station channel. There are people out there who think you're weak. They believe that eventually you'll come back, apologize, explain, maybe even beg. They're expecting you to stay quiet for a while and then return. But you did something they never saw coming. You stayed silent and walked away. No arguments, no explanations, not a single word left behind, and that silence, that calm, powerful quiet, was what drove them crazy. Because silence has incredible power. It makes people start to question themselves. It forces them to face the consequences of their own actions. And now, the thing that confuses them the most is this. They've lost control over you. When someone hurts you, acts distant, plays mind games, treats you like you don't matter, what they're really doing is waiting for your reaction. They want you to chase them, to explain yourself, to beg. Why? Because your reaction is proof that they still matter. If you get angry, they feel powerful. If you argue, they know you still care. If you beg, they know they still have control. But when you choose silence, everything changes. Because silence isn't doing nothing. Silence is the clearest rejection there is. It says, I don't need you. I'm not playing your game. And suddenly, they don't feel powerful anymore. Now they're alone, left to face themselves. No more reactions, no one left to manipulate. Just a heavy silence that forces them to confront the truth. You're stronger than they thought. And that terrifies them. You were supposed to be the one who suffered, the one who missed them. But now they're the ones lying awake, checking their phone, wondering, why haven't you reacted? On the outside, they may act cold, like they don't care. But inside, they're panicking. They're wondering if they were wrong about you, because the version of you they thought they knew, the one who tolerated everything, who always forgave, that version is gone. You've changed. You know your worth. And that is power. So what happens when you refuse to give them the reaction they're expecting? Why is silence the one thing they never see coming? And how can you use this to become even stronger? That's exactly what we'll explore today. Before we dive in, I'd be so grateful if you could help spread the Stoic philosophy. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. If today's message hit home, drop a 1 in the comments. If it didn't quite resonate, comment 2, so I know how to improve next time. All right, let's get started. Part 1. They never expected. You'd become so strong, they can't touch you anymore. You know what truly shocks them? It's not the silence. It's not even the fact that you walked away. No. What shakes them to their core is realizing that you turned out to be stronger than they ever imagined. They never saw it coming, not from you. They never pictured you standing your ground, standing this tall, this calm, this unshakable, because they expected something else entirely. They expected weakness. They expected you to need them, to crave an explanation, some closure, maybe even a little validation, or at the very least, a reaction. But instead, you gave them silence. And that was the one thing they couldn't handle. Because when someone believes they own your emotions, when they think they can push your buttons, the most powerful, most terrifying thing you can do is prove them wrong. You see, there are people who treat you poorly and quietly hope you'll just take it. They count on your soft heart. They count on your history together. They count on your feelings to keep you tethered to their chaos. They believe your attachment outweighs your self-respect. But they miscalculated badly, because with your silence, you made one thing crystal clear. Your self-respect is not up for negotiation. It's not something they can bargain with. It's not something they can break. And now, they're the ones who feel abandoned. Now, they're the ones sitting in the silence, in the mess they created, looking for a reaction that's never coming. They thought you'd break down. They hoped you'd come crawling back, begging for one more chance, just one more opening. But instead, you gave them the gift of their own emptiness, and now, in the stillness, they're forced to ask the question that terrifies them most. Maybe I wasn't as important to them as I thought. And for someone who lived off control, for someone who thrived on power games, that's not just a question, that's a nightmare. Because here's the truth they never wanted to face. People who manipulate don't actually want to lose you. They just want you to be afraid of losing them. But you're not afraid anymore. You've changed. You're not who you used to be. You're not easy to control. You're not easy to guilt. You're not easy to manipulate with sweet words and empty promises. You've become something else entirely. Calm, grounded, confident, unreachable. You've stopped explaining yourself, stopped defending yourself, and started walking in a kind of strength that can't be touched. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that is exactly what you've done. Your silence tells them everything they need to know. You're no longer ruled by your emotions. You don't act out of desperation. You don't chase. You don't beg. And you don't play games. You don't react. You respond with silence. Because silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon. It's a wall. It's a mirror they're forced to look into. Real strength isn't loud. It's not in yelling, not in proving a point, not in one-upping or getting the last word. Real strength is walking away without a word. It's holding your peace when chaos surrounds you. It's knowing you could say everything, but choosing instead to say nothing. Because nothing hits harder than silence. Nothing shakes them more than your refusal to play the game. And now, they're the ones panicking. They're the ones checking their phone, refreshing messages, wondering if you'll reach out, desperate for the smallest hint that they still matter. But your silence? It speaks louder than any words ever could. It says you've grown, you've healed, you've stepped into a level of self-worth so high they can't even reach you anymore. And that is your greatest power. Part 2, the second thing they realize is they're not as important as they thought they were. At one point in time, they truly believed they were special. In their mind, they were the center of your world, the name you whispered in your prayers, the person you couldn't imagine living without. They believed they were irreplaceable, no matter how they treated you, no matter how distant, cold, or careless they were. They were certain you'd always be there, waiting, hoping, still caring, still loving, because to them, your loyalty wasn't a gift, it was a given, something they didn't have to earn, something you'd never take back. But then, you went silent. No argument, no dramatic goodbye, no guilt trip, no last message, nothing. And that's when it hit them. Hard. Wait, am I not as special as I thought I was? Did they just walk away without even looking back? That realization, it didn't just sting, it shattered their illusion. Because the truth is, everyone wants to feel important. Even those who hurt you, even those who walked away first, even those who acted like you didn't matter. They still want to live rent-free in your heart, to be the name that lingers in your thoughts at night, to be the reason behind your sadness, your nostalgia, your pain, because to them, that would mean they still matter. that they left a scar, that they were significant, that they had an impact on your soul. They want to be the memory that makes you sigh, the ghost that haunts you, the what if that never goes away. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You gave them silence, and with that silence, you took away the one thing they wanted more than anything: validation. Validation that they still had power, that they were unforgettable, that they still lived somewhere, anywhere, inside your heart. Now they're the ones struggling to understand what's going on, because silence is brutal. It says nothing, yet it makes them question everything. Was I ever really important to them? Did they even love me? Was I just a temporary character in their story, and for someone who thought they were the main character in your life? That kind of questioning is torture. They had a story in their head, one where you always came back, one where you never stopped loving them, one where they were the prize and you were the one chasing. But reality didn't match their fantasy, because this time, you didn't chase, you didn't explain, you didn't beg, you walked away and never looked back. And now, for the first time, they're being forced to face something they never prepared for. The possibility that they were never as important as they convinced themselves they were. As Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that is exactly what they're going through now. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know if you're hurting or if you've already moved on. And that silence, it opens the floodgates of their imagination. Now their mind is spinning. What if they're laughing right now? What if they're happy? What if someone else is holding them the way I used to? What if I was just a stepping stone? What if I never mattered the way I thought I did? And that drives them crazy. Because when someone truly believes they held a permanent place in your life, the most painful truth you can show them is this: they didn't. They were a lesson, a chapter, a bridge between who you were and who you've now become, not a forever. So here's the truth, spoken plainly. Don't break your silence. Don't give them the closure they're desperate for. Don't offer them the comfort of knowing they still matter. Because the moment you do, you hand them back the power you just reclaimed. Let them sit with the silence. Let them sit with their doubts. Let them wonder, was I ever really that important to them? Because the moment they finally accept the answer, the moment they realize they weren't, that's the moment you step fully into your power. And that power is yours now, unshaken, unapologetic, and undeniably free. Part 3. They start to question their own worth. You know what's so powerful about silence? It's a mirror, but not a mirror that reflects you. No, it reflects them. No noise, no distractions, no excuses left to hide behind. Just the truth staring them in the face. And for the first time, they have no choice but to confront it when you were still there. Still talking, still explaining, still trying to fix what was broken. They had an escape. They could deflect, blame you, twist the narrative, paint themselves as the victim in a story they wrote themselves. But now, you're silent, and in that silence, something terrifying begins to unfold. They no longer have a villain to point at, no one to argue with, no voice to drown out the guilt. Now, there's only them, and the echo of a question they've tried to avoid for a very long time. What if I'm the one who ruined everything? And that one thought, that's enough to crack even the strongest ego, because no one wants to believe they're the reason something meaningful collapsed. No one wants to sit with the idea that they broke something beautiful. But every day you stay quiet, Every moment you don't reach out, don't explain, don't engage, it becomes another wave crashing into them. Did I mess this up? Did I lose something good? Was this all my fault? And the worst part for them, they can't ask you. They can't call you up for comfort. They can't ask for clarity, because you've walked away. No fight, no final plea, just silence. A silence that leaves no room for false comfort. No lies to soften the fall. No maybe someday to cling to. Just emptiness. And now, they begin to question everything. Their decisions, their actions, their own worth. Because here's something simple, but profoundly true. If they genuinely believed they did nothing wrong, your silence wouldn't bother them. They'd be unbothered, peaceful, free. But they're not. They're restless, unsettled, haunted. And that tells you everything you need to know. Deep down, they know. They knew it back then. They just didn't think they'd have to face it. They took you for granted. They assumed you'd always be there, always forgiving, always available, always choosing them. But now they're left with the thing they never prepared for, the consequences, real, silent, irreversible consequences. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And right now, their thoughts are destroying them, replaying memories like a broken record, picking apart every word you said, reading meaning into every goodbye they didn't take seriously, trying to convince themselves that they didn't screw it all up. But no matter how hard they try to believe that, there's one thing they can't escape. You didn't fight for them. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't break down to keep the story going. You just left. And that shakes them to their core. Because if you really loved them, if you were really as invested as they believed, then how could you just walk away? Why didn't you try harder? Why did you choose silence when you used to choose them? And that's when the real pain begins. Not for you. You've already found peace. But for them. Because now they're not just missing you. They're missing the version of themselves they thought they were. The one who was worth fighting for. The one who thought they had control. The one who believed they'd always be the one you returned to. Now they're chasing a ghost, but it's not your ghost. It's their own self-image, the one your silence shattered. They're questioning their value in ways they never have before, doubting their own impact, realizing maybe they weren't the prize after all. And the best part? You didn't yell. You didn't argue. You didn't try to teach them a lesson. You didn't need revenge. You just left. Quiet. Clear. Done. And that's a power they never expected. Part 4. They used to think they had control. Now they're just desperate. Some people, they thrive on the feeling of control. They feel powerful knowing that if they say the right thing, you'll respond. If they go silent, you'll panic. If they walk away, you'll come running. They believed your entire emotional state depended on them. Your joy, your pain, your peace. And back then, maybe it did. Maybe their words could break you. Maybe their absence could hollow you out. Maybe you waited for them, hoping for crumbs of affection to fall back into your hands. But now, everything's changed. When they turned their back, when they chose distance, indifference, silence, they expected you to still be there. Maybe not in their life, but in your mind. They thought you'd be watching, worrying, wounded. They thought you'd obsess over every post they made, revisit old conversations, looking for meaning, stay trapped in the emotional maze they designed. But you didn't fall for it. You didn't flinch. You didn't chase. You didn't even mention them. And that shook them to their core. Because when they lost control, they realized something terrifying. You're not that person anymore. Now the desperation starts to creep in. Suddenly, you see it. A like on a post from months ago. A vague message that says nothing but wants everything. A cryptic quote about missing someone. An accidental, "Hey," that was very much intentional. It's not coincidence. It's not random. It's desperation. Thinly veiled as curiosity. It's the last-ditch effort of someone who used to hold the steering wheel and now can't even find the keys. Because when someone's used to pulling your strings and the strings are gone, they'll reach for anything to feel in control again. But what they don't realize is that you've evolved. You're not the person who lights up over breadcrumbs. You're not the one who interprets vague signals as hope. Not anymore, because now you understand something powerful. If someone truly wants to come back, they won't send shadows. They'll show up with clarity, with effort, with truth. And they haven't. Because this was never about love. It was always about power. And now that the power is gone, they're free-falling. As Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials." And right now, they're in the middle of their trial, the slow-burning realization that they never had the control they thought they did. You're no longer playing by their rules, and for the first time, you genuinely don't care. And the most painful part? It's not losing you, it's watching you live, love, grow without them. Watching you thrive, watching you stay calm. Watching you glow with no trace of them in your light. They thought your silence was a tactic, a pause, a temporary wound that would soon need bandaging with their hands. But the longer you stay silent, the longer you stay free, the more they realize you've truly moved on. And now, they don't know what to do with themselves, because their real fear was never about losing you. It was about losing how you saw them. As long as you reacted, they still mattered. As long as you cared, they could pretend they were unforgettable. But now you've gone silent, not just in words, but in thought, in energy, in spirit. They've become irrelevant. And that truth, that's what's tearing them apart from the inside. But the best part, that's no longer your problem. You're no longer trying to fix what was never yours to carry. You're not chasing understanding or closure or a sign, because you've already received the only confirmation you ever needed, their desperation. It's loud, it's obvious, it's hollow. And you're done. Part 5. They start watching you, obsessively. Of course, they'll never say it out loud. They'll act like they don't care, like they've moved on. Like what happened between you two barely left a scratch. They'll post pictures, smiling with friends, raising drinks, living their so-called best life. They'll craft a version of reality that says, "I'm fine, I'm unbothered, I'm over it." But behind closed doors, they're watching you. Closely, constantly, obsessively. They check your latest posts. They zoom in on your stories. They look at your background, your smile, your surroundings, hoping for clues. Who were you with? Where were you? Why do you look so okay? They scroll through your feed, scroll through their own memories, reread old messages like sacred scripts, hoping to find something they missed, hoping to feel something they've lost. They ask mutual friends casual questions. Hey, have they mentioned me? Acting curious, acting indifferent. But deep down, even they don't fully understand why they're doing it. At first, they lie to themselves. I'm just curious. Just wanted to check in. It's nothing serious. But they know. They know exactly what this is. Because your silence has made you a mystery. And when someone loses control, when the script no longer plays out in their favor, they become desperate to know what happens next. Back when you were texting, explaining, checking in, trying to keep the peace, they felt secure. They knew where they stood in your heart, even if they didn't treat you right. Your words told them they still mattered. But now you've gone quiet. No texts, no reactions, no updates, and that silence, it unravels them, because now they don't know. Do you still think about me? Do you miss me? Have you moved on? That uncertainty becomes their prison. So what do? They search, they scroll through your photos, check who liked them, read the comments like detectives in a cold case. They're looking for signs, for hope, for proof that they still exist in your world. But the more they dig, the more obsessed they become. And worst of all, they never find the ending they were hoping for. They don't see heartbreak. They don't see you falling apart. They don't see regret written across your face. They see peace. They see growth. They see life. A life that no longer includes them. And that's when the panic sets in, because now they're stuck in a loop, a habit they can't break. Checking, refreshing, watching from behind a screen as you keep rising. And every time they see you smiling, every time your silence stretches longer, every time you post something that radiates calm and contentment, their mind begins to spin. Are they happier without me? Did I make a mistake? Should I say something? Anything? But their pride, it won't let them. So they stay silent, just like you. Only difference is you're at peace in your silence. They're drowning in theirs. They're watching you, silently obsessed, silently tormented. And meanwhile, you don't even notice. You're not checking their profile. You're not replaying old moments. You're not hoping for closure, or proof, or validation. You're not pretending to be fine. You are fine. You're living, truly, freely, unapologetically living, and that is what hurts them the most. It's not just that they lost you. It's that you didn't crumble. You didn't collapse. You didn't stay stuck in the past they thought you'd never escape. You won, without shouting, without fighting, without trying to prove anything. You won just by walking away. Part 6. They want to reach out, but pride is holding them back. Right now, they're caught in a mental tug-of-war. One side of them wants to cave, wants to break the silence, wants to send that message, hear your voice, feel something. They want to know if you still think about them, if you still care, if there's even the smallest chance to fix what was broken. But the other side, pride, that cold, heavy voice inside saying, don't do it. You'll look weak. They'll know they've won, because reaching out would mean surrender. It would mean they care more than they ever admitted. It would mean you were the one with the strength all along. And for someone who once believed they held the power, that's unbearable. So instead, they suffer in silence. They pretend, they pose, they perform. They wear confidence like a costume, while inside they're unraveling. They secretly hope you'll break first, that you'll reach out, that you'll offer a signal, a crack in the wall, a hand they can take without having to ask for it. They tell themselves comforting lies. If I wait long enough, maybe they'll come back. Maybe they're just testing me. Maybe this silence is their way of waking me up. But deep down, they know that's not true. And that realization, it's eating them alive. Every day that passes without a message from you chips away at their confidence. They check their phone without realizing it, scroll through conversations they once ignored. They stare at your name, fingers hovering, but never pressing send. "It's fine," they whisper. "I'm not waiting." But they are. Every notification sparks hope. Every vibration sends their heart racing. Is it them? But it's never you. And that quiet absence, it's deafening. Inside, a battle rages. Pride says, "Don't text. Keep your dignity." The heart whispers, "But what if it's too late?" And regret. Regret has started creeping in, like smoke under a locked door. They begin to replay everything, the words they said, the things they didn't say, the way they treated you when they thought you'd never leave. And now, the questions flood in. Could I have handled this differently? Why did I let them walk away? What if I've lost them for good? The longer your silence continues, the more their regret transforms into full-blown panic. They want to reach out, so badly. But you know what they fear more than anything? Silence. Yours. Because if they message you, and you don't reply, if you've really moved on, if they find out they've lost you for real, that would destroy them. So they stay stuck, too afraid to act, too proud to ask, too wounded to move. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And right now, they are not living, they're just existing. In a loop of memories, regret, and pride. Because to reach out, they'd have to admit the things they swore they'd never say, that they're vulnerable, that they still care, that they never had as much control as they pretended to. And so instead, they do nothing. They suffer quietly, wait silently, hope endlessly. But you didn't break. You didn't hand your power back just to soothe their guilt. You didn't give them the comfort of reassurance, or the relief of forgiveness, or the illusion of control. You held your silence, held your peace, held your dignity, because you finally realized something they never expected you to understand. Silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. You made them sit in their own thoughts, made them feel what you once felt, made them question every choice they made when they thought they could never lose you. And now, whether they admit it or not, they know. They know who truly had the strength. They know who truly walked away. They know who's worth keeping. And this time, it's not them. Part 7. They'll either come back the right way or never come back at all. This is the turning point. From here, there are only two paths forward. No more circles, no more loops, no more holding space for what won't rise to meet you. From here, it's simple. Either they change or they disappear. Some people, they'll stay silent forever, not because they've moved on, not because they don't care, but because their ego is louder than their heart. They'd rather suffer quietly in pride than swallow it and do the right thing. They won't admit they were wrong. They won't apologize. They won't come back the way you deserve. Because to them, silence is still a game, and they refuse to lose. And if that's the case, let it be. Because someone who values their ego more than they value you was never worthy of you to begin with. But then, there are others, the ones who feel it deeply, the ones who were shaken by your silence, the ones who tried to pretend it didn't matter, but now realize it meant everything. And if those people come back, this time they'll be different. They'll finally understand. You didn't walk away out of spite. You weren't cold. You weren't playing games. You were silent because you respect yourself, because you wanted real love. Not confusion, not chaos, not half-effort affection. You weren't desperate. You weren't begging to be chosen. You were standing firm in what you deserve. Genuine effort, consistent actions, honest respect. No more pretty lies. No more apologies without change. No more "I'm sorry" followed by the same behavior. Because now, you don't open your heart to people who come back just because they're lonely. You only open it to those who come back because they choose you, clearly, fully, and with intention. And here's what stuns them the most. If they want another chance, they have to earn it. They can't just pop back in like nothing happened. They can't reuse the same tricks, the same lines, the same excuses. They can't come back with a vague "hey" and expect you to unravel, because you've changed. You've grown, and now they'll have to prove they have too. Some will try to test the waters. A casual message, a subtle like, a song in their story, a breadcrumb to see if you'll bite. But when you don't respond, when you remain still, grounded, unmoved, they'll be forced to face the truth. The only way back is through real change. And in that moment, they'll face two choices. Option 1, step up. They take responsibility. They show up with humility. They own their part, fully, not partially, not just with words like "I've changed," "I miss you," "Let's try again," but with actions that prove it. Consistent, clear, honest. No more mixed signals, no more breadcrumbs, no more waiting for you to lead the healing. Option 2, let pride win. They stay silent, stay stubborn, stay stuck. They blame time, they blame distance. They even blame you. They convince themselves coming back isn't worth the effort. And by the time they finally realize your value, it might be too late. Because while they were stuck in pride, you were evolving. You're no longer the person who forgives everything, who romanticizes potential, who clings to people just because you're afraid to be alone. That version of you, gone. Now, you're grounded, you're healed, you know your value. You don't chase peace anymore. You are peace. As Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize your mind is complicit in the provocation. And now, you're no longer complicit. You don't hand your peace away. You don't get pulled into emotional whirlpools by people who can't swim in their own depth. No more games, no more almosts, no more emotional guessing. Because now you understand something they never did. Love is responsibility, respect is action, and power is silence. So when they come back, if they come back, they'll have only two roads: step up or step out. No more gray areas, no more maybe, no more one last chances. And no matter what they choose, you still win, because you broke the cycle. You didn't fight with noise. You fought with silence and reclaimed your power by doing the hardest thing of all. You chose yourself. In my personal view, silence is sometimes the most powerful statement of all. I used to believe that to be understood, I had to say everything, explain myself, hold on tightly, for as long as I could. I thought only then would people see I mattered, that my worth lived in my words. But with time, I learned something else. The truth, the ones who truly care, they don't need you to say a single word. And the ones who no longer prioritize you, no matter how much you explain. Your voice becomes nothing more than an echo, lost in the vastness of space. Yes, it hurts. It really hurts. When you realize you're no longer the center of someone's world, But in that moment, if you can take a breath, take a step back, stay silent, and choose to respect yourself instead, you become someone new, stronger, calmer, more grown. Because silence doesn't mean you've stopped feeling. It means you've finally come to understand your worth. So here we are, at the end of this truth-filled journey, a lesson that seems so simple, yet leaves many of us shaken to the core. Silence is never random. It's a message, clear, undeniable. When someone walks out of your life, no texts, no calls, no effort. Don't soothe yourself by saying, they're just busy, because deep down we all know people make time for what matters to them. Silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes it's an answer. It doesn't shout, but it makes you face a truth you may not want to hear. Not everyone you love will choose to stay. But here's the twist. In that very silence, you discover something else, something more powerful than pain, strength. Because strength doesn't come from holding on. It comes from knowing when it's time to let go. When you stop chasing someone who no longer sees your value. When you choose silence, not out of weakness, but because you've grown, that's when you reclaim your power. You don't need closure. You don't need their apology. You don't need them to come back, because now you've chosen something greater. You've chosen yourself. And that is the quietest, yet most powerful victory of all. If today's message touched something deep inside you, if you felt a piece of yourself reflected in the silence, in the quiet, gentle changes that are slowly shaping who you're becoming, leave a comment below. Let me know you're still here. Tap that like button if you can feel your inner strength rising. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep walking together on this journey to know ourselves, to master ourselves, to live with depth, courage, and direction. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, keep your mind calm, keep your self-worth intact, and move forward quietly, because real strength doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be lived.